Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and people that prefer to be genderless, if you're one of those. This is a new era. We have to be super sensitive to everybody. That's what queer is, right? You're like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm it. This episode is brought to you by Ting. Ting is, I have a new Ting phone, by the way. I just got it. This is the official cell phone of this podcast, and I got the Samsung Galaxy S5, which has a heart rate monitor built in, young Jamie. Right there, you put your finger, it tells you shit about yourself, like you're fat, or you're not fat, or you're fucking awesome, or you're gonna die, and tracks all sorts. It's like there's a fit program that comes with it. It's dope. I am officially a phone whore, though. It's my third phone this year. That makes me a phone whore, seeing how it's only August. But I love me technology. I love it. What Ting is a mobile service that uses the Sprint backbone. And what they do is they use Sprint, but you don't go by Sprint's rules. You go by Ting's rules. And Ting's rules are incredibly beneficial to you. 98% of people would save money with Ting. And they have no contracts, no early termination fees, nothing, no bullshit. And you also don't pay a flat rate per month, which I like. Because most of the time you don't use all your minutes. And it's kind of ridiculous. You know, you pay for 120 minutes, you use 90. What happens to those other 30 minutes? Nothing. They're gone. They're in the ether. Next month, new cycle, 120 minutes again. Ting doesn't do it that way. With Ting, you pay for what you use. And I think it's the smartest way to do it. They have incredibly high ratings, if you look online, as far as like people that use Ting, how much they love them. They're applauded left and right. And it's because of the ethics of the company. It's an extremely intelligent group of people that put together this plan. They said, you know what, you can still make a lot of money without fucking people over. And that's what they decided to do. $21 is the average monthly bill per device for Ting customers. It's pretty sweet. And they have all of the latest and greatest Android phones, like this one that I have right here, which is the Samsung Galaxy S5, it's pretty dope. It's beautiful, big 5-inch screen. It's awesome for going online and shit. But they have all the Android phones. And when you buy them from Ting, you own it. It's yours. That's it. If you're a cheapskate and you don't like spending a lot of money, you can get an iPhone 4 for just $95. If you want to get the top of the line, you can get an iPhone 5 for only $250. And when you pay that $250, you actually own it. See, when you buy a phone from most companies, and say if you buy a phone, the phone says $299. It's not really $299. What it is probably like $600, but you pay off the other $300 over time. So if you try to cancel, they hit you with this fee. So what the fee is every month they just tack on a little of the price of the phone to your bill. It's kind of stupid. It's in my eyes, it's kind of ridiculous. You don't need to do it that way. And if you do it through Ting, you just buy the phone, you own it, cancel when you want, and then be done with it. And if you go to rogan.ting.com, you can save $25 off of any of these beautiful devices. It's an ethical company, an awesome company. They have a great service. The Sprint backbone is a fantastic network. And, you know, it's not like you're using a mom-and-pop cell phone company. You're using one of the major providers. You're using the same service that you get with Sprint, but with Ting's rules. I love it. And again, it is the official cell phone of this podcast. And got one right in front of me. Rogan.ting.com. And that is the only commercial today. How about them apples, bitches? Abby Martin's here. Why fuck around? Cue the music, young Jamie.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
So, Mrs. Rogan sends me this video. She goes, have you seen this? Like, what do you think about Gaza? What's going on with Gaza? What is your take on this? And she sends me a video of you. And I said, that's my friend Abby Martin, who took this very controversial stance. And this is a tricky situation, isn't it? Like, Gaza's, first of all, it's sad and depressing and disgusting, but it's also very tricky because there's all this weird biases that are going on left and right. You know, there's the United States has this weird bias where they're criticizing Israel, and then Israel's like, hey, fuckheads, didn't you guys bomb the shit out of Iraq? Didn't you bomb the shit out of Afghanistan? You guys are talking about innocent civilians being killed. Like, what about you? And then there's also people on the Palestinian side that think it's just fucking horrendous what Israel's doing. And then there's people on the Israeli side that think Hamas should just sign the peace treaty and stop training suicide bombers. You know, there's, in my opinion, when I look at it, and I'm obviously not qualified to be some sort of a political analyst, but when I look at it, I try to look at it objectively, the whole thing looks like just a disaster. Like a huge humanitarian disaster.
I think it's one of the largest humanitarian issues in the world today. And I think that we're going to look back in 50 years and really just criticize how abominable the entire situation is, and the fact that the world isn't turning a blind eye. The U.S. is turning a blind eye. You know, you say that I took a controversial position, but really it isn't controversial in my mind because I'm looking at this oppressed population that's imprisoned. Mm-hmm. When I grew up, Joe, I didn't even know, first of all, what Palestine was. And then finally, when I learned about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, even though it's really one-sided, I started to learn about what Gaza actually is. And I think a lot of people don't even understand when they hear the word Gaza what they're talking about. It's really, what we're talking about is an open-air prison, 45-mile strip of land, completely closed off. Egypt's closed their borders. Sisi's just fucking sucking the dick of Netanyahu, totally working together. Netanyahu's shut off, the IDF has closed off all the other borders. It's totally under siege. There's 1.8 million people living in that close quarters. It's one of the most densely populated places on Earth. So whenever you have this bombing campaign, people are going to die en masse. And when they say that they're using human shields, that's complete fucking bullshit. I haven't seen one shred of evidence to prove that they're using human shields. In fact, if you look back at the last 60 years of U.S. military conflicts, they've used that term to demonize populations whenever they want to make it seem like this population doesn't value human life. You're telling me Palestinians don't value their child's life? That they're going to throw their kids out and guard missiles? All I've seen is cartoons from Netanyahu, these infographics that show people standing on a house with missiles underneath. Total fucking bullshit. This place has been under siege for years. Yes, they may have said that they pulled their troops out in 2007. It's under siege. The Israeli health officials said that they try to put them on a diet, so they only allow basic staples in. They claim because they don't want the Palestinians to be making weapons, pasta, paper, chocolate, anesthetics, wheelchairs. This is the shit that people can't get inside Gaza.
They're keeping them gluten-free. It's been shown to reduce hostility. There was a documentary once on suicide bombings. And they had this Palestinian school, and they had this sign over the school that said, "Today's children are tomorrow's holy martyrs." And they had this child that was strapped up with C4, and they had this picture of this kid that had died in a suicide bombing. And they were praising him like he was some sort of a saint, because he died executing this suicide
well, just like we
plan.
praise soldiers who go and drop white phosphorus from a plane. You know, what's more manly? Like when you're driven to zero, when you have nothing left, that's when people blow themselves up. It's not because it's a culture of martyrdom. It's because they have fucking nothing, and they don't have the industrial warfare capabilities to drop depleted uranium.
Right. Yeah, I'm certainly not taking a side.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that it's an incredibly complicated situation. Like, I don't know what would Israel do to like alleviate tensions at this point. How many thousands of people have died so far in this?
Over 1,500 at this point.
1,500.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
30% children.
Yeah, I've seen photos. Anthony Bourdain tweeted some awful photo of these children on the beach that had been bombed, and one kid was dead, another kid was being carried away, most likely dead, it looked like, by all the blood and everything. It was just... It's so depressing. It's so awful. And if you could objectively stop the whole scene and say, all right, what is a way to fix this? What is a way to alleviate this horrible conflict? What is it? Is there a way?
Well, I think up until now, people have been saying the two-state solution is a possibility. You had the Palestinian Authority working with the Israeli government. Hamas has negotiated before. It's not that they're like ignoring Israel. And of course, there's a lot of problems with Hamas, and I'm not going to sit here and apologize for them. They're really, I don't agree with anything that they want to see happen, but I understand why Palestinians have align themselves with this group because the Palestinian Authority failed so much and they capitulated so much to Israel. So they basically turned to the more militant faction of the leadership saying, fucking do something. At least you guys are resisting.
Right.
Because to them, it's an occupation. And under the UN Charter, it's an occupation as well. A lot of people say the one-state solution is the only possibility, which is end the apartheid state, give Palestinians equal rights, because right now there's different laws. If you're Arab, that's what Israel is. It's a Jewish state, and they've driven out people who are not Jewish, and they're ethnically cleansing them. It's a fucking disaster, man. It's really scary. And I don't actually blame Israelis because you're growing up in Israel. First of all, they think that they're the chosen people because the Bible says so, which is disturbing in itself. But second of all, if you're growing up in Israel and you do hear the sirens all the time and you fucking think you're being told that these people are terrorists and they want to kill you.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't blame it. But honestly, Israel has much more fair media coverage. They have Haaretz, they have 972 Mag. Here in America, we're treated like fucking children. We aren't told the context of the situation whatsoever. All we're told is Hamas terrorists keep firing at Israel, and Israel has the right to self-defense.
Well, in all fairness, this is a topic that's really too complicated for the news, in quotes. You're not going to get it in a Fox 7-minute soundbite in between commercials. This is something that's incredibly complex and really should be like a 3 or 4 hour documentary just to scratch the surface. And I don't know if, I mean, I guess if you call yourself the news, there's a responsibility, at least an implied responsibility, to educate when it comes to a situation like this. But to try to cover it on Fox News or on CNN and to try to like give an understanding to the people viewing, it seems almost impossible.
But they also just only do pro-Israel bias. Like, that's why I did that video. Why doesn't the media care about dead Palestinians? Because up until there was like hundreds of Palestinians that had died already, and the news was still making it seem like literally every single headline was just like 3 Israeli soldiers died, 400 others. And you're like, who are others? Palestinians? Like human beings? Like who the fuck are these people? Or it would just be like Israel's, Hamas rockets have Israel on edge. It's like, yeah, they might have Israel on edge, but people are fucking like dying and getting dismembered and getting blown up. Like from bombs and all this ceasefire shit, man. Look, you're invading a country. They are invading Gaza. Netanyahu has also said it doesn't matter, ceasefire or not, they're going to go through with the invasion and destroy the tunnels. The tunnels are not just used to store rockets. The tunnels are used to smuggle food into Gaza. The tunnels are used to smuggle people out to try to get them into Egypt because they're wounded and injured. On the news, it is disgusting. I've never seen anything so disgusting in my life than the bias toward Israel on the media. And I know I'm called so many names because I'm pointing this out, but to me, it's very obvious. My friend right here, she's from South Africa. She fucking, she grew up in a culture of post-apartheid, and we're living in a world where an apartheid state exists right now. And because of this tight allegiance with the U.S. supplies over $3 billion a year in just weaponry. We're continuing to give more weapons to Israel. Unless the U.S. says something, nothing's going to change. And because it's this Jewish state, if you criticize it, then you must hate Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, is this rhetoric, and it's so hard to break through and to explain to people, look, because I'm criticizing a government doesn't mean that I hate a population. I love all human beings. I just want them to have sovereignty, independence, and equal rights.
Well, there's also this undeniable problem with having an area like that. And what the problem is that there are going to be children that are born in that area that have no history of conflict whatsoever, and they're fucked. They're fucked. This is where they live now, and they're treated as the enemy. And they're born into that. And there's no chance to break that cycle. In that sort of a scenario, if you have a closed border, you have a closed-in population, and you have this demonized population, there's no chance to break that struggle. I mean, if you're a child and you're born in Palestine, what the fuck are the options?
Right.
Where are you going? What's going on? And what are the ideologies that you're confronted with constantly, left and right? Well, you've got Hamas, you've got all these Palestinian organizations that want to fight against Israel, and you're growing up in this state